Devil May Cry is a terrible game. Which one? This one. Wait a minute. I'm seeing a pattern here. Oh, really? And let's not talk about the water levels. Welcome to Devil Never Cry HD Collection, a trilogy of suffering, challenges, and attempts to be stylish. Despite these games being incredibly dated, the movement and functions available to the player is rather expansive. So expansive that you got collectibles outside the map. There's no way you found all these without a guide. That being said, this title's look back is going to be a bit different. I'm going to discuss them in order of timeline, so DMC 3 to start, while tackling them holistically instead of splitting them into the typical 3 categories. Now, I didn't realize this during my initial playthrough, but the timeline of the story is actually DMC 3, followed by 1 and then 2. Having all 3 games in one collection completes an overarching story, developing Dante, expanding on his backstory and motives, as well as determining his fate. DMC3's story introduces young Dante, who is setting up shop in a city filled with devils. Seriously, do any humans live here? This is like the worst place you could live. The narrative is pretty easy to understand, with Dante trying to stop his brother from claiming their father's sealed power. Their dynamic is iconic, and the interactions leave a hint of melancholy, wishing that the other adopted their perspective as a son of Sparta. In regards to functions, that's the primary offering of the DMC games, and does it certainly deliver. Out of this collection, DMC3 offers the most expansive amount of options for the player. Devil arms and guns have a wide selection, and newly introduced styles enable further combat capabilities through the B button. Devil Trigger is first canonically unlocked for Dante in this game as he awakens to his power after losing to Virgil at the Peak of Darkness. What a name. Unlike the other 2 games though, Devil Trigger does not unlock any new attacks. They simply enhance your damage and poise. Combat aside, there's plenty of incentive for replayability and achieving high mission rankings. New costumes are unlocked by completing playthroughs on higher difficulties, and completing secret missions reward blue orb fragments that work towards increasing your total HP. DMC 2 and 3 also have an endless mode called Bloody Palace, which is essentially 9,999 floors of constant enemies and bosses. Oh boy, have I been down this road before. Thankfully, it's not that intimidating, as you can progress 100 floors at a time should you choose, and it makes for an efficient alternative to farming red orbs. Finally, Virgil is playable, but his kit is incredibly limited compared to Dante. The story plays out the same, with some minor new cutscenes at the beginning and end, and the ending cutscene is the most interesting as it shows Virgil's arrival in Hell and face-off against the Prince of Darkness, who is, of course, Mundus. Several years have passed. Actually, I have no idea. Time has passed though, and Dante is open for business under Devil May Cry. But someone's at the door. Actually, they're not at it this time, they just break the whole damn thing. This time, Dante is cordially invited to a castle on a remote island that is home to Mundus and friends. DMC1 is much more linear and simple in its combat. Styles do not exist, but Devil Trigger has additional capabilities such as aerial attacks, which are very useful for certain enemies. The understanding I have for DMC1's story came full circle after completing DMC3, because players now understand that Virgil lost and became corrupted by Mundus when in Hell, becoming Nello Angelo, and that Dante is able to create Sparta because he obtained Force Edge and had both amulets, which was, I'm assuming, Arkham's goal. DMC1 also has water levels, which I guess someone asked for. Oh god, someone asked for more. Moving on to the last one, the one everyone wants you to ignore and forget. I don't think it's that bad as long as you ignore this thing. What makes DMC2 stand out from the other titles is primarily the difference in enemy AI. Most enemies typically only attack one at a time, and are less aggro than what players are used to in DMC1. Besides this though, there are many strange functions that operate against the player. The autolock system is not controllable and will force Dante to attack in their direction. The map display is by far the worst presentation I've seen in any video game. It doesn't even show you where you are. The combat is also much more simplistic than DMC1, which already has a very simple combat input system. This results in Dante's main damage source being in the form of a Devil Trigger Gunburst, which is incredibly powerful, but takes away from the variety and combos. So I said it's not bad, right? Well, it's because there are some unique functions that I did enjoy. Devil Hearts are equipable modifiers that adjust your weapon's elemental damage and Devil Trigger function. I see the potential in this system as it can add dynamic interactability in boss fights for elemental weaknesses, or for using your Devil Trigger a certain way. It's unfortunate that it wasn't a recurring function in DMC3 because it could have been expanded on. Lucia is also playable, who is this game's heroine and has some minor adjustments to the missions. For instance, she has a 3D water level. I should just end this section here. Ignoring that though, there is a bit more lore you learn about her and how similar Lucia's existence is that to Trish from DMC1, as they're both creations or servants of devils. I wouldn't say Lucia is a bad character, but what makes the overall story and characters uninteresting is how little dialogue and flat the story is. Dante doesn't have a personal stake in this story, so perhaps it feels less connected, but his sarcastic personality also isn't the same, and the story is very bare bones, with the only connecting lore to Dante being Argosax, who was sealed away by Sparta. Overall, it was still worth experiencing, and in the end, Dante is stuck in hell after defeating Arius, so with no way to returning to the human world, this leads to a mysterious fate and continuation of this franchise. And that's all I got for the Devil Hunter trilogy. I'm still terrible at this game, but it's proof that even I can make it through. I can see the quality of life vastly improving in DMC4 and onwards, as the base functions are already very engaging and developed. Capcom, just please make a functional and legible map, and you're golden in my eye.